Hi, friends. Welcome to the Healing Journey with Dr. Jimmy Walters. And I'm so excited to welcome you to this new chapter. You may be familiar with my work as an author and a speaker, or perhaps this is the first time we are crossing paths. Welcome, and thank you for being here. God knows there are plenty of podcasts out there already, and I have been hesitant about starting one for a while. In fact, this idea has been brewing for over 2 years, but it is now time to begin with what I hope is a mutually life-giving and beneficial experience. This podcast is titled The Healing Journey, and I mean healing in the broad sense of the term. It includes not only our physical self, but our spiritual, emotional, and psychological self. And you may be asking, why? Why start another podcast, or in your case, why listen to another podcast, when there is no shortage of information to fill our heads and hearts? And I'm doing this because of 3 reasons. The first is the need for healing. We look at this crazy world and it just feels as if the news gets worse by the day. I believe that at the heart of all this division and pain is hurt. We are hurting, both individually and collectively. And if we are going to change direction, it must begin with healing. The second reason for this podcast is my own journey has led me to this effort. Shortly, I will tell you more about myself, especially as I battle cancer and do advocacy work at the United Nations. I see suffering in all its forms. As I seek healing myself, I feel called to help others in their healing process. It is not something one person can do alone, but we can contribute to the healing, to be another helping hand, a voice of peace, and a source of love. The third reason is even if no one listens, which I hope is not the case, my young girls will have these episodes to listen to when they get older. With my cancer diagnosis, the promise of tomorrow is more fragile than ever before. If at the very least they have their own man's wisdom and insights, perhaps it will help them as they walk their own healing journey, as they face many of life's transitions. As I grow older and I walk my own path, while seeing the challenges in the world around us, I firmly believe that one of our greatest challenges is found in our woundedness. In fact, I believe our wounds can very well be blessings, opportunities to grow and live a more self-actualized life. We all have wounds, from past to present experiences, to things that happen to us, or wounds that we've caused ourselves. What we struggle with is first acknowledging these wounds, and then second, healing them. We are pretty good at covering them up or seeking distractions, but I believe we are invited to a healing that brings us peace. In future weeks, we will discuss this further and how we can meet God in this space of pain, trauma, and hurt. We will wrestle with the challenges and injustices that we in our world experience. So this is a space that will be both deeply personal and communal. If you are still listening with me, and I thank you and congratulate you, as it speaks to your own desire for healing. And I hope that we can learn together, as eventually I will welcome guests on the show to share from their own life experiences. And I ask for your insights and feedback as we journey together. Now, let's be honest, this podcast is going to be a work in progress. As we are already in trying to figure this out, trying to navigate social media and how to do these recordings, I'm really excited to see how this podcast takes shape. I have some ideas I'm going to try out. Some are going to work, some are not. Some ideas already include sharing music, videos, and writings that will help us heal our wounds and be our best selves. I already have a list of topics to explore that will present you with an invitation for reflection and perhaps to even make some changes in your life. Perhaps it is helpful to use this first episode to tell you more about myself. I am blessed in all ways possible. I am married to the love of my life, Susie. We'll be celebrating our 16th wedding anniversary this summer. We have 2 beautiful daughters, Shay, age 9, and Lily, age 5. I have a wonderful, wonderful village of family, friends, and colleagues. and I belong to many life-giving and safe communities. I have a wonderful home to rest my head. My fridge and stomach are always full, and there isn't a day that goes by where I am not laughing or missing God's presence in my life. As I said, I am blessed. Professionally and spiritually, I spent almost 2 decades in campus ministry at St. John's University in Queens, New York, accompanying young people on their faith journey as I walked my own path just a few years down the road from them. I loved this time, as I learned so much from the students. I was inspired by their courage, their brilliance, and their deep concern for others. And they also trusted me, and they shared their life stories, some more difficult than others. It gave me insight into the complexity of life, the wounds that are formed, and the gift of resilience, of faith, and of healing. I was also exposed to the needs of the world, especially those in poverty. This included some of our students and their own life stories, but also those in our community and across the world. I led groups of students to serve in New Orleans post-Hurricane Katrina, in Germantown, Philadelphia, and in Lourdes, France, where we assisted the sick and dying who were seeking healing and the miraculous. I also led service experiences here in New York City, in Manhattan, feeding those who did not have a home, did not have food to eat, working with disadvantaged youth, and also helping sick children. During my college years, prior to working in campus ministry, I worked and volunteered at a local children's hospital, which really impacted my life. I think of those children often, some of whom are now adults, and others who have returned home to God. This experience gave me the gift of appreciating the fragility of life and how at times life is just not fair. For the past 3 years, my work has been at the United Nations, representing the Sisters of Charity Federation. I represent 13 religious congregations of Catholic sisters who are based in North America, but have sisters and partners in countries all over the world. And at the UN, I work closely with many other religious and non-religious organizations who are committed to both securing human rights and human dignity for all. We are committed to many social issues, but with a special focus on poverty, especially homelessness, the rights of women and girls, and care for Earth and all of God's creation. I serve on committees that focus on these justice issues, among other issues, and we work closely with countries that we call member states to advocate for real, practical change. And this has been a fascinating experience. First, I have been exposed to some of the challenges in other parts of the world, and I'll talk about this more in the future. Now, I was not blind to the realities of humanity, but I never could have predicted the amount of suffering that exists. From the impact of over 100 armed conflicts all over the world, to the lack of education, clean water and air, and stable housing and reliable healthcare, people are in pain. And I believe we have a responsibility to help. This requires our charity in forms of donations and service projects, but it also requires advocacy to remedy the broken systems that lead to these injustices. In this work, or rather I believe it's a ministry, I have been welcomed into the community of religious sisters who teach me how to be, how to love, and how to act for justice. I am inspired every day and challenged, pondering how God is using me. Now, religious sisters have been and still are the backbones of many systems of Catholic education, healthcare, and faith communities all over the world. They dedicate their lives to living the gospel, to serving others, and to reveal God's love. I am a better man, husband, father, writer, and overall person because of their influence and impact. I share all of this as a background, and I'm going to share more stories as we go along in future episodes. But probably the most recent influence on this podcast and this healing journey is the cancer journey that I've been on since last June. Now, I'll talk more about this in the future, but to summarize for now, I have stage 4 colon cancer. It's still weird to even say it. I just completed 6 months of chemotherapy. My hair has survived, which I'm very grateful for. And in early February, I will have my second surgery in 7 months. Now, I was reluctant to start this podcast prior to the surgery as the recovery time is not clear. But this will just be a part of the reality of life and the reality of this new podcast. It will be what it will be. Now, a lot of times, the terminology for cancer patients is it is a battle and that we are survivors. Now, this language just doesn't feel right for me. It doesn't work. I'd much rather say I am healing. And this doesn't just include the cancer cells in my body, but how I heal emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. For the past 6 months, I've been writing about this on my website, and I'll include a link to the website in the comments so you can catch up. I am overwhelmed by the amount of readers who have read my vulnerable and honest words of processing this disease and this new reality. And I am so grateful for the kindness and flowing of prayers that have come pouring in. So many of you have prayed for me and my family from all over the world. And you have accompanied me on this healing journey. And I pray that I can share some of my newfound wisdom with you here on the Healing Journey podcast. From the beginning of my cancer journey, my prayer has brought me back to this one fundamental question. What good can come from this disease? I pray that this podcast and what we are attempting to accomplish is one of many answers to this question. My health remains a bit of a mystery, and I'm going to invite you to share that journey with me, the roller coaster of emotions with every scan and blood test. And surely the surgery will present new challenges and opportunities as well. Thank you for accompanying me, and please pray for me and my family, and I will pray for you too. So that is a lot about me and how I enter this space. And I look forward to sharing more as we journey together. And as noted earlier, I hope to learn more about you as we meet on this shared road. Now let's talk about this podcast for a few minutes. The plan is to offer a weekly episode available every Tuesday morning, New York time. You can access the podcast on all major outlets where you get your podcast, as well as watch the podcast on YouTube. Please subscribe to receive alerts and new episodes. For each episode, there will be a similar format of 5 segments, beginning with an introduction and discussion to a topic that benefits our healing journey. All the segments that follow will relate to this topic. There will be times when special guests are invited to discuss the topic, but most of the time I will provide the reflection. Further reflections on my website in written form will accompany each episode, and short clips will be generated for social media if you do not have the time to listen to the full episode. The second segment of the healing journey is titled Words of Love, where we feature a spiritual quote of healing, followed by a short commentary. I will pull words from those who have passed and those who are living, representing various religious and spiritual traditions, so we have diverse voices reminding us of our unity and shared connections. So let's try it out. Let's have our first quote. And this week's quote comes from the 13th century Islamic mystic and poet Rumi. Now, if you're not familiar with Rumi yet, Google him. And I promise you, you will be moved by his words. Now, for us to ponder, Rumi writes, and I quote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you," end quote. I'll say it again. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Now, for you Leonard Cohen fans, this will sound familiar. In Cohen's song Anthem, he sings, "There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." And there are other versions of this quote that have emerged over time. Now, what I love about what Rumi says and what Cohen says is that it's a shift in perspective, where you can see our wounds not as curses or burdens, but as a spiritual gift where we may encounter God. Now, for those in the Christian tradition, we see consistent stories of saints who have lived lives that have become extraordinary after a conversion, a change in path. And those conversions are often caused by a trauma or an unwelcomed experience. One example is St. Francis of Assisi, who this year we celebrate the 800th anniversary of his death. He was wounded in battle, and he had dreams of becoming a great knight, and those dreams came crashing down. Through his injury and disappointment, a great saint was born. He was humbled, defeated, and it was here that he could finally hear God's voice. Now just think about it. 800 years since he passed, and we still acknowledge his life and his legacy. Do you know that there is no person in the history of the world who has had more books written about them than St. Francis. His radical life of love all started with a wound. Just imagine the invitation before us, how we can take our wounds, take our pain, heal them, and then heal others. It is a communal experience of love. So the lesson here on the healing journey is to see your wounds as an invitation to something deeper, something peaceful. Now, this doesn't ignore the trauma or the seriousness of the wounds. They are real, and I imagine hard for me to even appreciate. Yet, there remains an invitation to heal, to find peace, and to find the light in the cracks. A third segment that each episode will feature is titled, What Am I Reading? And I will then share a short segment from a spirituality resource. Now, I tend to read 4 to 6 books at the same time. It takes a long time to get through them, and they all focus on the healing journey. And I'm going to highlight something that struck me that I believe is worth sharing. And we will begin this with the next episode. The fourth segment will respond to any questions or comments that you share. This will begin after a few episodes as we build this audience. This is also a space to share your thoughts on the podcast and to please offer any feedback to improve this as we go along. So feel free to add your comments while viewing this on YouTube or share your comments on any of the connected social media feeds. I value your opinion. Now, each episode is going to conclude with the fifth segment that offers a brief meditation to close our time together. So if you're listening into the car, you're going to want to pause it at this point for obvious reasons. Now, it may appear each episode or it may vary. We'll see how it goes and how it's received by you. But we will try it here as we bring this first episode to a close. The reason behind this is that although we take on average 21,000 breaths a day, we often fail to pause and focus on them. Now, there are many gifts of intentional breathing. It invites us to heal. It slows us down. It refocuses us and it refreshes us. It will be a small gift each episode from me to you. I'm also going to introduce at times different prayer models or resources that you may consider incorporating into your daily reflection and prayer time. So let's give it a shot by bringing our time together in meditative prayer. First thing I'm going to ask you to do is, especially if you're not driving, is to close your eyes. Allow distractions around you to fade away for a couple minutes. And this is not going to take long. And then I'm going to ask you to do some deep breathing. And when you breathe, breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. And as you breathe in your nose, be intentional to bring and breathe in God's peace. And as you breathe out, with an intentional mindset, breathe out all that is causing you anxiety, all that is causing you stress, all that is upsetting you or keeping you from living your best life. And so you breathe in peace, you breathe out the junk, you breathe out all the things that are keeping you from being peaceful. And so we're going to begin with a couple of deep breaths. You'll follow along. And then I'm going to invite you to do a little bit of a guided meditation where your imagination will lead you based on what I'm saying. Now, there are different versions of this. This is just going to be a couple minutes long. But you can feel free to continue it on your own when you have more time. So again, let's begin with your eyes closed. The ideal sitting environment is to be sitting with your feet on the ground, your hands on your laps, so your body is not crossed in any way, because we want the energy to flow through you from the ground all the way up. Close your eyes and follow along as we take some deep breaths in. So take a deep breath in and breathe out. Deep breath in and breathe out. One more time. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Now at your own pace, breathe in. And breathe in God's peace. And breathe out. And feel all that anxiety and all that stress leave your body. Then at your own pace, breathe in. And breathe out. You should feel your belly fill with air when you breathe in and empty when you breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Now I invite you to imagine that you're standing before a large door and you're going to open it. And as you open it and walk through it, you notice a staircase going up. And there are 10 steps that we're going to walk up together. And with each breath in, you walk up a step and then you breathe out. Next step, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. The fourth step, breathe in and breathe out. Fifth step, breathe in and out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Take the eighth step, breathe in, breathe out. Ninth step, breathe in and breathe out. And the final step, breathe in and breathe out. Now again, you're standing before another big door. I'm going to ask you to open that door, walk through it. Again, with your eyes closed, your imagination is going to invite you to think about your happiest place you've ever been. A place where you can revisit in your mind, but it's a place you've been physically. And you can imagine what it is like from when you've been there before. Some people choose a beach or a park. Some people choose a family memory of a home that they used to live in or visit. Wherever it may be, just imagine yourself there. And pay attention to what you notice. Look around. Look to your left. And look to your right. Look up. And look down. And just allow your senses to work. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Is there anything you can touch? And just allow yourself to be in this place, this special sacred space that you have chosen to return to. And just stay here for a while, remembering to breathe in and breathe out. I'm going to take a minute here in silence for you to remain in this place, for you to breathe at your own pace. And then I will invite you back. Enjoy the journey. If your mind starts to fade away and think about all you have to do, just return to your breathing and return to that place. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. Deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and breathe out. Before we leave this special place, look around, say goodbye, and know that you can return here anytime you want through your imagination and through this meditative process. And when you're ready, return to that door Open it. Walk down those steps again. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7, step 8, step 9, and step 10. You now approach that door that you first entered, open it, walk through it, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Notice how you feel. Hopefully you feel a little bit more relaxed. And we did that in about 5 minutes of a meditative process. Normally when I conduct these meditations, I give 15-20 minutes for it. So you can go back and pause at that moment when I say we're going to take a minute break, and give yourself as much time as you can if you want to go back to that place and relax your body. And as I said, in future episodes, we'll do different forms of meditations. We'll sometimes give more time to it and invite you to stay in that place or go to some other places or meet certain people. It's really just a way to use your imagination to relax, to rest, to refocus, and hopefully find some peace. So this is the end of our first episode of the healing journey. I thank you for being with me. I pray that until we meet again, you are blessed with health, love, and peace. I'll see you next time.